Summarizing data using basic graphs in R. Some of the base graphs that are used in R are scatter plot, box plot, histogram, bar graph, line graph, and pie chart. Selection of graph depends upon what would you like to show through your graph. So if you want to compare the data, you can use different types of graph for that based upon if it is based you are comparing items. So you can use column charts, bar charts, depending upon the items you are using. Or if you are using, you want to show the data over the time period, changes over the time period. For that, you can either use cynical data that for that you will use area chart, line chart, or column chart. If you want to show distribution of data, it depends on single variable or if there are two or more variables. If there are single variables and you want to show their distribution, you can use histogram or line histogram. If you are using two or more variables, for that you can use scatter chart or area chart. If you want to show the composition of your data, it can be over a period or on a static basis. If it is on a static basis, you can use pie charts. Then there is waterfall chart and stacked column charts. If you are showing changes over the time, for that you can use column charts, stacked column charts, and stacked area charts. If you are showing a relationship between a data, it can be two variables or three variables. If there are two variables, you can always use scatter chart for that. And if there are more than two variables, for that you can use bubble chart. So let's start with scatter plots. Scatter plots show a graphical representation of the relationship between two numbered sets. So if there is any data set having two variables, for example, if there is height and weight, so if you want to show a relationship between them, you can always use scatter plots. The scatter plot is great for showing what a distribution of a data point look like. So they compare the x-axis and the y-axis and plot the points according to the data available, showing a relationship between both the axes. Then drawing a line to of a best fit for regression analysis. So whenever we are doing regression is a relationship establishment between two variables. For example, in the graph, you can see relationship between ad and revenue. So for that, there is a dotted line you can see, which shows there is a positive relationship between ads and revenues. The function that is used in R to plot scatter charts or scatter plot is plot, and within the brackets there will be different aesthetics that we will be discussing about. Next are bar plots. Bar or column charts are used to compare different items, and those items when we are comparing categories of the data. So whenever we are using bar plots, the data has to be in categorical form. All the bars are of equal width and height depend upon the numbers that we will plot according to the data. The function used to build the plot or bar graph is bar plot. Next is histogram. It shows the frequency distribution of a set of continuous column such as weight, height, or how much time a course will take, etc. The graphs are the percentage or the number of instances of different categories. So they show the percentage of different variables that are in continuous form, the x-axis or the variable you are taking. So whenever we are creating a histogram, only one variable is used, and one variable is on the x-axis, which is grouped into ranges. The function that is used to plot histogram is hist. Within the bracket there will be aesthetics and the labels and x-axis y-axis details. Next is box plot, the method of graphically depicting group of numerical data through their quartiles. So quartiles are the 5-number summary of the data set, which includes the minimum value, the maximum value, the median and first quartile, and the second quartile. So first quartile is the difference between the minimum and the median value. and third quartile is the difference between median and the maximum value. It can tell you about your outliers and what their values are. So box plot is very helpful to plot the outliers. As you can see in this figure, there are quartiles. This is the maximum value, minimum value, the median value, and this is the outlier or the value that is out of the data which can be affecting the analysis of our data. The function that is used in R to plot box plot is box plot. Next is pie charts. So pie charts used to show the part of a whole. So it represents in percentages and the total sum of all divided segments equal to 100%. The pie charts can only be used when there are less items or less variables. Otherwise, it will be a messy or hard to read graph. The pie charts help us to divide the data which equals to 100%. It shows the composition of any of the data sets. The function used is pie. The next is line graph. So the perfect solution for showing multiple series of closely related series of data. They are great for a minimalistic look. It reveals the trend or change over time. So line graphs helps us to show the data set with how it changes over the time. For example, the stock price, variation in the stock price, or you can include the number of visitors over the site. So it shows a continuous data set and helps to build a relationship with that. Next, we are showing the aesthetics that are used for building graphs in R. So there are four main aesthetics that we will be discussing about. So first is color. So whenever we are building a graph, creating a graph, to make it attractive, we should always use colors and different type of lines and different shapes and size of the points that we are using. So first is color. There are multiple options that we can use to color, like if we are plotting a graph, so there are default plotting colors that can be recycled. So if there are multiple variables, you can always recycle the colors using 3 and 10, changing the same colors different for different variables. Then there is colors for axis annotations. If you want to color the axis names, for that we use color.axis. Then there is col.lab for coloring the labels. Then there is col main. So if you want to change the color of the title you are giving to your graph, for that you can use this command. Then there is color for subtitles. If there is any subtitle you are adding, you can change its color also. Then you can give the background color to your graph also. Next, it is line. So you can change the lines in following options. So there are two commands for that. One is LTY and LWD. So LTY is the line type. You can see there are number of line types mentioned in the picture. So there is straight line, dotted line, dashed line, dot and dashed line. So there are different types of line you can use depending upon the number. So if you want line type to be 6, so you can do LTY equal to 6. So it will be like the top line you can see it is the small dash and the bigger dash. Then there is line width. For that the command is LWD. You can always make the size of the line big, or it can be a thin line. Next is the plotting symbol. So plotting symbol can be of different shapes. For symbols, the numbers are from 0 to 25. There are 25 types of symbols that you can use to plot your data. For the command that is used to give the name to plotting symbol is PCH. So you can type PCH equal to the number of that symbols. If I want to take a big circle, so it is 21 here. If you want to take a percentage square sign, it is 22, and downward arrow it is 25. So similarly you can take different type of symbols. Then there is text and symbol size. So if you want to take a large size or a small size, for that the command is CEX. You can always change the size of the plotting point, the axis point, the label size, and the title size. You can always change their size with the command cex. For that, you can take 1 as a default. 1.5 will make the size to 50% larger, and 0.5 will make it 50% smaller. Now let's go to R and create codes for scatterplot first.